Some episodes may contain graphic content or sensitive topics, while all episodes will consistently feature offensive language and absurd speculations from two opinionated women on a spiritual journey just trying to figure shit out. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, I'm Heather. I'm here with my co-host, Sharon.
Hi.
And welcome to Hex Haven. Do you just want to dig right into this?
Fuck yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. I am going to present to you a person today.
Okay.
This person kind of came about because I thought this was a fictional person. Mm-hmm. And then I was doing some research on other things and I was like, oh, this is actually a real person.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you 3 clues to who this person is.
Okay.
My first clue involves you looking at this picture. So
okay.
This person is on the cover of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album that was released in 1967.
Okay.
Which was crazy to me.
Yeah.
This album cover is one of the most iconic and recognized images in music history. Mm-hmm. So anyone listening, you can Google Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band album and you'll see this come up. So I'll just describe it just a little.
Yeah, okay.
It has very vibrant colors. It's a surreal design by artists Peter Blake and Jan Haworth. The band members John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr are like front and center.
Yep.
And
all dressed very colorfully.
Yes. And that's what I was going to say. Is they're in these colorful, like military style band uniforms. And they're standing behind a large drum that displays the album name. And each Beatle member is surrounded by a collage of cardboard cutouts of famous people. So there's various artists, actors, writers, and world leaders, each of which reflect the countercultural and experimental nature of the 60s.
Okay.
It's a lot to see, right?
It is. There's a lot of faces in there.
Yeah. Do you recognize any of them?
No, just the Beatles.
Okay.
Maybe Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, good. All right. So the collage contains around 70 figures from historical icons like Marilyn Monroe and Albert Einstein. The cover was meant to reflect both the Beatles' evolving musical journey and cultural references of the time. So the overall effect complements the album's experimental style. Okay. I'm just going to tell you a really fun fact about this album cover.
Okay.
Is John Lennon originally requested that Hitler be on the cover.
What?
Yeah. But then the artist, Peter Blake, was like, no, that's too controversial. And so then he replaced it with an Olympic swimmer. So I'm going to give you an image now with the same image, but with a circle around the person in question.
Okay.
And do you recognize this person?
I do not.
Okay. So then my next clue to you. This person was the subject of a 1980 song by Ozzy Osbourne.
What?
Yeah. And let me tell you, I got down a Reddit thread and found out this person is also connected to music by David Bowie, Daryl Hall, and they're mentioned in several comic books and television shows, including The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which is the newest version of it on Netflix.
Okay,
yeah. I'm
awesome.
like, okay. All right,
cool.
so you still, and it's a guy for anybody.
Yeah, he's a bald white male.
Very back row, the second one from the left.
Yep.
A bald white man.
Yep.
Okay. This is your third clue and your final clue. This person had a character based off him on the television series Supernatural.
It's Aleister Crowley.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Isn't that cool? I'm like, really? He was on the Beatles album? Aleister Crowley was one of the most controversial and eccentric figures in the early 20th century, known for his involvement in the occult, mysticism, and his self-proclaimed title, The Beast.
Oh.
So
that's a title to give yourself.
It sure, girl, wait until I tell you more about this guy's life. But really, what I know about Aleister Crowley is what I learned on Supernatural.
Yeah, I was going to say, because isn't there 2 characters technically? Because it would be, so there's Aleister, who was a demon in the show, and then Crowley is the king of hell?
Well, the character, he was referred to the king of the crossroads, and then he was the king of hell when Lucifer was gone, like in his absence.
Yeah, but I thought his first name wasn't Aleister.
It may be.
I think that it's Fergus. Because Rowena
I can't remember Rowena calling him that.
Is her father. But I think it's still based on him.
Yes.
The king of the crossroads, you know, that's a pretty common thing in the occult. So...
You know, I really thought based on Supernatural, it was a fictional character.
Right.
And it wasn't until I was like researching tarot cards that I realized that he was a real person because he made his own deck.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, well, I think I should maybe learn a little bit about this guy, you know, because I don't know. I didn't realize he was a real person. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't really realize he was real either until I started doing research for this path, really. And then he's mentioned in just about every book that I've picked up.
He is, yes. And the actor that plays him in Supernatural,
Mark Shepard,
makes Crowley like hot.
Yeah,
he does. Like, you know he's bad, but you still root for him. You still like him. But then when I read the stuff about the real Crowley, I'm like, ew. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a big fan. I think like he's probably a narcissist.
Oh,
but,
I can definitely see that.
I guess what I'm going to do is just do like kind of like a timeline.
Okay.
And tell you about events and stuff like that. So we're going to do everything Aleister Crowley right now.
All right.
Okay. Edward Alexander Crowley was born in October of 1875. His father, Edward Crowley, was trained as an engineer, and his share in a lucrative family brewing business, Crowley's Alton Ales, allowed him to retire before his son was born.
Wow. Good for him.
Yeah, I know. But what a great name. I'm like, I really feel like there should still be... Hopefully there's still a brewing company out there with this name or a beer with this name. Right? Yeah. And then his mother, Emily Bertha Bishop, came from a Devonshire Somerset family, and not much is really known about her.
Okay.
Crowley's father was born a Quaker, and a Quaker is also known as a friend. A Quaker is a member of a religious society of friends, a Protestant Christian denomination known for its emphasis on direct experience of God, simplicity, peace, integrity, community, and equality.
Isn't it like, aren't they like a highly, highly nonviolent Quakers?
Yeah, the peace and integrity and simplicity. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know much about Quakers, but I'm watching Outlander.
Okay.
And I'm towards the end, and they're in America, in the, like, before it was America, but that's where they started talking about Quakers. And they kind of like, on the show, I'm not sure if this is how they really are, but they like kind of talk weird a little bit. Like, instead of saying like, how are you, they'll say like, how are thee?
Yes. Oh, that's so like old time English language.
Right. Yeah.
So, art thou?
Yes, exactly. So that's all I know about Quakers.
So then Crowley's father later converted to the Exclusive Brethren. It's a factor of the Christian fundamentalist group known as the Plymouth Brethren, which is a nonconformist Christian movement.
Okay.
His mom converted upon marriage, and Crowley's father became a traveling preacher for this sect.
Okay.
Yeah. In 1880, he had a sister, Grace Mary Elizabeth Crowley, who unfortunately died later that same year. She died in infancy.
Aww.
So he is an only child.
Okay.
In 1884, when he was 8, he was sent to an evangelical...
like evangelical?
Yeah. Christian boarding school, and then to Ebor Preparatory School in Cambridge. It was run by Reverend Henry Darcy Champney, whom Crowley considered a sadist. I just want to real quick say that the majority of the stuff, that the information that I have, I got from like 2 major books.
Okay.
One is The Magic Life, the biography of Aleister Crowley by Martin Booth, and then the other is Do What Thou Wilt.
Okay. Which is like a term he crowned, isn't it?
Yeah. A Life of Aleister Crowley by Lawrence Sutin. And both of them were published in 2000.
Okay.
One was published in London and the other in New York, which I thought was kind of weird that 2 books about him came out at the same time, but just in different countries.
Yeah. Well, I think right around the crowning of the 2000s is really kind of when the occult world became less underground, I feel like.
Okay.
So that could be a reason. When we were talking last time, we kind of uncovered that a lot of like the major books about paganism and stuff had come out about 25 years ago.
Yeah, you're right.
So that would be like
So that would
around
make
that
sense.
time, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. So then in 1887, when he was 11, his father died of tongue cancer.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. How sad. This was a turning point in Crowley's life. He adored his father and considered him a hero. Crowley inherited a third of his father's wealth and began misbehaving in school. So I did kind of look at this because I was like, why a third? Why only a third?
Yeah,
If it was just
if he's
him
an
and his
only
mom.
child, yeah.
And I couldn't find anything. So I'm guessing that maybe a third of it was donated.
Yeah.
Or he didn't get the other third until his mother passed. But,
Right.
But yeah, so I don't have any explanation why he only got a third.
Yeah, maybe there was like a business partner or something.
Yeah, I don't know much, and I just didn't see anything that really told you.
Hard to nail down some of this stuff because it's so long ago.
It's so long ago. It's really so long ago. Well, and I think really why people know so much about him is because he wrote a ton of stuff.
Right.
So he was constantly writing about himself. So he was constantly documenting his journeys, his lifestyle. So that's how people do know so much
Right.
about him. Then he began misbehaving in school. He received harsh punishments from Reverend Champney, who he had considered a sadist.
So he goes to like a Christian school then?
Yes.
He must if he's got a priest.
Yeah. And he later was removed from the school when he developed a condition where he had too much protein in his urine, and it could be related to kidney issues. So,
Okay, yeah.
yep. There is a very long and complicated word to describe it, and I am not going to try to.
Is it preeclampsia?
No.
Is that just a pregnancy thing?
I think that is a pregnancy thing. He was not pregnant at
He
11.
was not pregnant at 11.
I mean,
You don't know his life. It
it's
could have
like albinoria or something like that.
Okay.
I probably butchered how it's pronounced, but I chose to leave that out because I knew that I couldn't pronounce it.
Yeah.
So then he attended Malvern College and Tonebridge School, both of which he disliked and left after a few terms. These were also like Christian-based schools.
Okay.
He became increasingly skeptical of Christianity, pointing out biblical inconsistencies to his religious teachers, and he went against the Christian morality of his upbringing by smoking, masturbating, and having sex with prostitutes from whom he contracted gonorrhea.
Oh.
Yes.
We're just putting him on blast.
I know.
Oh, my God.
And this starts out when he's 11.
I was going to say, in school.
So, like, he's maybe, at this point, he's maybe about 12 or 13. How is a 12 or 13-year-old getting prostitutes?
Right.
Like, what kind of world?
Yes. I mean, the 1800s of it all.
It's a wild time. It really was. But I was like, really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, that's awful. So then he was sent to live with a brother and tutor that was a sect of the religion his father was deeply involved with.
Okay.
So he undertook chemistry courses at Eastbourne College, and then Crowley developed interests in chess, poetry, and mountain climbing. And in 1894, he climbed Beachy Head. He is known as being like an elite mountaineer.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So from 1894 to 1898, he would go on holiday to the Alps, and he would climb every year. Mm-hmm. And then in 1895, Crowley began to go by Aleister instead of his birth name, Edward.
Okay.
Kind of like
So he's like in his 20s now?
It's 20.
Okay.
Yep. He's 20 now, and he's like just, like most kids in their 20s, like really redefining who they are,
Right.
finding out who they are,
And coming from a Christian background like that, I'm sure he probably was looking to go in a much different direction.
Yeah, for sure. He began attending Trinity College in Cambridge. His field of study was moral science, which was also known as human science, which studies the philosophical, biological, social, justice, and cultural aspects of human life.
Okay.
Then he changed his major to English.
Oh.
He was the president of the chess club.
Okay.
In 1896, this is where he's like 21. In December, while on holiday in Stockholm, Crowley experienced his first same-sex encounter and was said to have his first mystical experience.
Oh.
So, okay. And at Cambridge, Crowley maintained a vigorous sex life, largely with female prostitutes. Like, what?
What is with the prostitutes?
I don't get it.
You're in your 20s. You would think that
Right.
you'd be able to get a little thing whenever you wanted. Well, not whenever you wanted, but
he's loving men
occasionally.
and women, so
Yeah.
I don't feel like, it's slim pickings. You have to pay for stuff now. Well, maybe he just liked prostitutes. I don't know. Maybe they were kinder to him.
it could just be that prostitutes won't run and tell people what your sexual desires is. I mean, really.
I'm sure he probably had a huge kink.
Yeah.
Right. For sure. And maybe he, at that time, caught syphilis from a prostitute.
So he had gonorrhea and syphilis.
Which, you know what? And I don't understand is like penicillin wasn't discovered until like 1940. This is like 1896. So were you even cured from the gonorrhea?
Right.
So do you now have gonorrhea and syphilis? And now everybody that you're with has it.
Right.
Like, this is some icky stuff. This is why people back then probably died in their 30s, because they were dying from diseases because they were having fucking wild sex lives.
Right. Those poor prostitutes.
I know. So awful. Just trying to make $1, man.
Damn. Come out with fucking syphilis.
I know. It's kind of mind-blowing to me, too, that this is, like, documented.
Right.
Like, I hope that if I ever have a Wikipedia page and I ever have like an STD, that is not going to be in the information.
It into the Wikipedia, yeah.
So do me a favor, if that ever happens to me, make sure that does not get put into my bio.
That's a deal that I can make you.
And then when she was 85 in the nursing home, she contracted syphilis, and I'll be like, no, I don't want to be known for that.
I don't want to be syphilis girl.
Even if I am 85, I don't want to do it. So then, and also at this time, he was taking part in same-sex activities, and it was very illegal to do this at this time. In 1897, Crowley met Herbert Polet and entered in a relationship with him. Charles was the president of a student sketch comedy group where he would often dress as a woman.
Okay.
The two ended the relationship because Charles did not share the interest that Aleister had with Western spiritual and mystical beliefs or practices.
Okay, so he was maybe highly religious?
Maybe. Yeah. I could have done a little more research on him, but I chose to just stick to Crowley's timeline because, man, there's a lot of people that crossed his path, and we'll talk about some things later as we progress,
Cool.
So then when he's 23 in 1898, he left Cambridge without even obtaining a degree.
Okay.
In August of 1898, Crowley was in Switzerland, where he met the chemist Julian L. Baker, and the two began discussing their common interest in alchemy. So back in London, Baker introduced Crowley to George Cecil Jones, who was Baker's brother-in-law, and a fellow member of the occult society known as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn that was founded just 10 years prior.
Okay, so I've heard a little bit about that.
See, I've never heard of this either.
Order.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about it, but it was one of the first documented secret societies.
Yes, it's definitely a secret society. And I, until reading this, didn't know anything about this either.
Yeah, we should cover it once.
So the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, more commonly known as the Golden Dawn, was a secret society devoted to the study and practice of occult, Hermeticism, and metaphysicists.
What is Hermeticism?
It's the Hermetic. So it's the Hermetic Order. So it's what the Hermetic believe.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, I could...
A belief system.
Their belief system, correct.
Okay.
That's a great... Yes, thank you for putting that puzzle piece together for me. This was during the 19th and the 20th century. In November of 1898, Crowley was initiated into the Outer Order of the Golden Dawn by the group leader Samuel Mathers. He was writing and publishing poetry throughout this time and was able to do so with his inheritance money. And so some things that I read, his writings were not well accepted.
Yeah.
But he had a lot of them because he was self-publishing, not because there was demand for his stuff.
Right.
Like, publishers weren't banging down the door like, you got to write us another poem, man.
Right.
No, he was just... because he's a narcissist, and I think he was releasing anything that he wanted because he could, because he had money.
Right.
In 1898, he bought a home in Scotland, and then he felt he was ready to enter the group's inner second order. But he was unpopular in the group. His bisexuality and his libertine lifestyle gained him a bad reputation.
Right.
And he developed feuds with some of the members. So when the Golden Dawn's London Lodge refused to initiate Crowley into the Second Order, he went to Mathers. And Mathers was in like a Paris location.
Yeah.
And then Mathers personally admitted him. So he threw a tantrum and then went back to his friend. Another thing a narcissist would do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm entitled to this.
Yeah.
So do this for me. So his friend did it. Then the London location was not happy.
Yeah.
That he kind of went over their head and initiated him because they had valid reasons why they felt that he shouldn't be initiated.
Right.
So then Crowley, another narcissist behavior, he tried to take the London Temple location by taking them to court. Yes, for the space. So he wanted their temple space. He was suing them for their temple space.
So he just wanted to take it from them.
He just wanted to take it from them.
Just because he could?
Just because he could, and they made him mad, yeah.
Wow.
But he ended up not winning that battle.
Okay.
And so then Crowley and Mathers were isolated from the group. Way to go. Now nobody likes ya.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
God.
Yeah. In 1990, he traveled to Mexico, settling in Mexico City, where he started a relationship with a local woman. I could not find any information about her. I mean, I did a lot of looking. I mean, I even did like genealogy to figure out how many kids he has, because that's, some say 5, and then some family trees have 6, and then there's something about a Venezuelan woman, and then, but the timeline doesn't match, and then some people put her into Mexico, but she's not Mexican, she was Venezuelan, so it doesn't match up, like their ages, so I'm like...
I'm the one person that I'm covering also is from the 1800s, and I found it extremely difficult to verify the amount of children.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's... I think it might be a combination of bad records keeping, and then also, like, I feel like everybody kind of had similar names. Like, everybody was naming their children after their parents and so on and so forth.
It's super traditional. Even in my own family tree, like, you have your grandmother's name, your grandfather's name, your aunt's name. So there could be 6 people in your family that have the name Catherine.
Right, yep.
And it was also typical, which I noticed in my own family tree, if there was like Elizabeth Catherine and she died, so she was named after, like, his mother was Elizabeth and her mother was Catherine.
Yeah.
So this little girl's named Elizabeth Catherine. Well, she died from like scarlet fever or whatever. The next little girl they had was Elizabeth Catherine.
Yeah.
Because they tried to carry on the name. So you would often see that they would have 2 children with the same name, but only one was living.
Right.
So that's something that, too, in my own genealogy, because I used to research it with my mom, that I found. So, yes, there is... Oh, wait until I tell you some of the names of his kids. I'm so excited. But so, unfortunately... There's just talk about relationships. In this timeline, I need to mention, like, really, he's writing, like, so much poetry. He's writing books. But I did not feel that it was important to mention all that. I kind of like did more of the timeline of him.
Yeah.
You know, his life.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Versus every time he issued something.
Right.
There was a few...
Especially if he's a narcissist.
Oh, gosh. There's a few really special books out there that I did note because I felt they were really important for us to talk about.
Okay.
So then in 1902, he traveled to Paris and he met Gerald Kelly. In August of 1903, Crowley wed Gerald Crowley's sister, Rose Edith Kelly. It was a marriage of convenience to prevent her from entering into an arranged marriage.
Oh.
The
so
marriage...
he was saving her from
some
rando?
Yeah. I don't feel like he saved her, though. But
yeah.
The marriage appalled the Kelly family and damaged the friendship of Gerald. Heading on a honeymoon to Paris, Cairo, and then Sri Lanka, Crowley fell in love with Rose and worked to prove his affections. While on his honeymoon, this is really sweet, he wrote her a series of love poems.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, that is sweet. And then when they were finally published, they were called Rosamundi and Other Love Songs. I'm like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Okay, so he did something nice for someone.
Yeah, that was sweet. Mm-hmm. Then in February 1904, Crowley and Rose go to Cairo, and they are pretending to be a prince and princess, and they rented an apartment in which Crowley set up a temple room. I was curious, like, why did you pretend to be a prince and princess?
Yeah.
Once again, I did not find any information about this, but I think that they were pretending so they would be treated differently.
Right, like a higher class.
Once again, the narcissist.
Yeah.
Feeling he's more entitled than what he really is.
Right.
And I think that's really what it was.
Right.
Is they didn't want to be seen as average people.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think, and I think that's probably why it's not really discussed.
Yeah, it's probably a pretty safe bet.
Yeah. Yeah. So then he set up a temple and began invoking ancient Egyptian deities while studying Islamic mysticism in Arabic.
Okay.
So they're there for like 2 months. Mm-hmm. And Rose is getting messages and like visions, and he heard a disembodied voice identifying itself as a messenger of Horus. And then Crowley said that he wrote down everything the voice told him over the course of the next 3 days, and he wrote a book and titled it The Book of Law.
Okay.
The book proclaimed that humanity was entering into a new eon and that Crowley would serve as its prophet.
Oh, I bet it did.
Yeah, yeah. Which, do you know anything about, like, the Book of Mormon?
I don't know a lot.
So the same thing happened, like, with the Book of Mormon. Like, this guy found, like, these magic tablets on a hill.
Yeah.
And then he transcribed them into this book, which became the Book of Mormon. And then when everyone's like, hey, where are the tablets? He's like, well, I don't know. You know? So
they disappeared.
Like, yeah, they disappeared. So no one, so it's once again, someone just making up shit so they can be in charge.
Yeah, right.
You know? And it stated that a supreme moral law was to be introduced. And this is the statement.
Okay.
Here. This is their logo, so to speak, or, you know, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. So basically, do what you want.
Is law. Yeah.
It's law.
Right. And it's not do what you will, but cause no harm. It's just do what you want.
100, and you'll see this dude's buck wild. He's doing what he wants. He does it. Another narcissist.
Yeah.
Like, you do not care about others.
Right.
Like, you know, the book and the philosophy that it supported became the cornerstone of Crowley's religion, Thelema.
Okay.
So this Book of the Law eventually becomes their gospel
their
book
tradition
for Thelema. Yep. In July of 1905, Rose gives birth to Crowley's first daughter.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you her name. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you some interesting things about her name. Bear with me. This is her name. Nui Ma Athir Haggerty Sappho Jezebel Lilith Crowley.
What the hell?
She went by Lilith.
Yeah, why? Why so many names?
I don't know. Nui is a French word for night.
Okay.
Okay. Hathor is Egyptian word for goddess of love, beauty, and pleasure.
Okay.
Hecate is a Greek goddess of the moon, earth, and the dead. And Sappho is a Greek poet.
Okay.
Jezebel in the Bible was the daughter of a priest king. Once again, narcissist sees himself as a king.
Yeah.
And then Lilith. Do you know much in the Bible about Adam and Eve?
I know a little.
Okay. So, once again, I did not grow up religious. All I know is there was Adam and Eve. They were created by God, and Eve was created from Adam's rib.
Yeah.
That's what I know.
I know that, and then I know she ate the apple and brought, consciousness to people.
Okay. I didn't even know that much.
And there's something with a serpent.
Yes, there is, like a snake,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Was the snake in the apple? When she bit the apple?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Hold on. Here's something I did not know, and I was kind of like, what? Like, I feel like why does no one talk about this? But Lilith and Adam were created at the same time. She refused to submit to Adam, so she was banished. And then God created Eve from Adam's rib.
Okay.
So it was Lilith and Adam first, and because she wouldn't submit, he created Eve.
And Lilith today in religion is thought of as a demon.
Yes.
Like a fallen angel.
Because she wouldn't submit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I never knew that. Never knew that. And I'm like, well, that's wild. I really think I would like to look into Lilith more.
Oh, for sure.
Because once again, she's a character on Supernatural.
Supernatural, yep.
And that's all I know.
Yeah.
And she had something to do with hell, right?
She was a fallen angel. She was a demon.
Okay.
And
I knew she was a demon, but she was
she was a
there.
big part of the first couple of seasons. She's the one that Sam had to kill in order to set Lucifer free.
She was the one that represented as a little girl when she first came into the episodes, right?
Oh, so spooky. Yes.
Yeah. So that's all I know about Lilith. And then when I'm reading this, I'm like, what? Like, I never knew there was Lilith and Adam.
I didn't either.
And from things that I'm reading, there's another woman, too. So Adam had 3 women. But I didn't want to get in that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, I feel like that should be talked about or
Yeah.
looked into.
Yeah, we should look into that.
But yeah, I was kind of looking at cross religions, how people viewed her. And she's definitely seen as a fallen angel, as demonic. Some religions see her as. And I'm like, why? Because she didn't want to fuck a dude when he wanted to fuck her?
Yeah.
Really? Because she said
she wouldn't
no?
be subservient.
Yeah.
And in religion, there's a lot of that. In history with women is if you aren't subservient, if you don't do what the rich white men tell you, then you're the devil.
You know, I was reading through religions. They all basically say the same thing. Like, God banished her, and he just, really, he was like, she didn't work out. Let's just make you a new one.
Yeah.
And from that understanding, I think that Lilith and Adam were created equally. But then when he created Eve, he took a piece of Adam.
Yeah.
To make her more subservient.
Right.
I think that's from what I was reading, but Lilith is definitely someone I would like to look a little more into because, once again, I just thought maybe she was a fictional character.
Yeah.
In July of 1905, their lovely daughter Lilith was born, and Crowley thought it was a super great idea to write his wife a pornographic poem to entertain her while she was recuperating.
Oh, my God.
Yes, it's called Snowdrops from a Curate's Garden. Okay? Yeah. And a curate is a member of the clergy or a minister.
Okay.
So you thought your wife was thinking about sex?
Right.
Right after she had your baby? Like, what a douchebag. I don't like this dude.
Yeah, that's wild.
At this time, he also founded a publishing company through which to publish his poetry, naming it the Society of the Propagation of Religious Truth, which was a direct parody to the Society of Promoting Christian Knowledge.
Okay.
So then Crowley decided to climb, this mountain, which I'm going to try to pronounce, Kanchenjunga, in the Himalayas of Nepal. It's widely recognized as the world's most treacherous mountain.
Okay.
And other climbers thought that he was being reckless. And then they eventually mutinied against his control. So another thing, I tried to look what they meant reckless. Like, I imagine it had to have been like something safety-wise. Like, is he not tethering to his partner?
Right.
Was he like going off the track?
Right.
I imagine that's what it is, but
probably
I couldn't get more information of that. But they eventually mutinied against him, and the climbers headed back down the mountain at nightfall just because they were so fucking fed up with his shit. And even though it was too dangerous, they still did it. And unfortunately, a climber and several porters were killed in an accident, something from which Crowley was widely blamed in the mountaineering community. And a porter, I just want to say, is like someone that carries your luggage or supplies. Like back then they had porters, like,
So a porter died?
A climber and several porters died. Like a famous climber that was also known in the mountaineering community.
Right.
So when they got back, word spread that this guy died, and everyone wanted to know, like, what happened. There was all these experienced mountain climbers, and it all led back to whatever Crowley's behavior was or what, he was doing. So then he was spending time in India, and he wrote the homoerotic work, The Scented Garden. Crowley met up with Rose and Lilith in Calcutta before being forced to leave India after non-lethally shooting 2 men who tried to mug him.
Oh.
Yep. Nothing else on that either.
So crazy.
Yeah. So I don't know.
So he was forced out of the country?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he shot 2 men that tried to mug him. So I don't know if he apparently he carried around a gun. There was no conceal and carry licenses back then. So then Crowley and his wife decided to tour China, hiring porters and a nanny. And Crowley smoked opium throughout this journey.
Oh, Jeebus.
So now at this point, I'm like, oh, okay. So
you have a drug problem.
He has a drug problem, which might have been the reckless behavior on the mountain.
Definitely.
It could have been why for 3 days he thought someone was speaking to him.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
And then his wife also probably shares the same problem. So probably why she thought people were speaking to her too.
Right.
So you people are hallucinating.
Right.
Because you're using drugs, not because like a prophet or something is actually talking to you.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people, especially back in like the 1900s, was a lot of people felt like drugs were a gateway to the divine, kind of. So,
well, and imagine, like, okay, so I don't know much about opium.
It's heroin.
Okay, so it's heroin.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
okay.
You use opium to create heroin.
Imagine how pure it was back then. They weren't cutting it with stuff.
Right.
They didn't even have penicillin yet, so they weren't cutting it with anything. So this dude is smoking pure opium.
Yikes.
Yeah, yikes is right. But I feel like that explains a lot. Explains probably his behavior on the mountain. It explains a lot. So while Rose and Lilith returned to Europe, Crowley headed to Shanghai to meet an old friend, Elaine Simpson. She was fascinated by his book of law. Crowley then sailed to Japan and Canada before continuing to New York City, where he unsuccessfully solicited support for a second expedition. So he was trying to get people to sponsor him to go back. But now they've all heard about his behavior, and they're like, I ain't giving you my money. I'm not giving you my support. I don't want my name attached to you anymore. Right. So now his name within the mountaineering community has been tainted.
Right. Because of his own actions.
Yeah. In 1906, upon arrival in Britain, Crowley learned that his daughter Lilith had died from typhoid fever, which I looked up, and it is still something that people die from.
Typhoid fever?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know much about it.
And I thought it was something that was eradicated by immunization shots or something.
Right.
But it says millions of people still die from it. So I don't know if it's third world countries that... But it kind of blew my mind. I was like, really? I thought that was something that was eradicated.
Like measles.
Yeah. So then he had later blamed Lilith's death on Rose because she was becoming an alcoholic.
Well, she's got to do something to deal with your shit.
I mean, he's never home. He's
Right.
like just traveling the world. I know there's not like Facebook, so you're not like, who's the bitch you posted a picture with?
Right.
But I'm sure things come back to her like, oh, yeah, we've seen him with this man.
Yeah.
Or we've seen him in Mexico with this lady.
Right.
Like, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's no way that he was faithful.
No. No. So then, under emotional distress at this point, his health begins to suffer, and he underwent some surgical operations. From what I can see, the operations had a lot to do with bronchitis, asthma issues, maybe because he's smoking fucking opium.
Right.
I don't know, but that's what the surgery seemed to be connected to, is more like breathing issues and stuff like that. In February of 1907, Rose gave birth to Crowley's second daughter, who has a very, very lovely normal name.
Okay.
Her name is Lola Zaza. I think it's cute.
That is cute.
Yeah. While she was giving birth, he was out having some short-lived romances with an actress and an author.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Later in 1907, Crowley's inheritance was running out. He began taking on paying students whom he instructed in occult and magical practices.
Okay.
Victor Newberg, whom Crowley met February of 1907, became his sexual partner and closest discipline.
Okay.
In 1908, the pair toured Spain and then headed to Morocco. Your wife has a newborn baby at home, and now you have a lover.
Yeah.
And you're going on vacation with him. And here's the thing.
Damn her in that alcoholism.
Yeah.
Like,
damn her in that. I know. He's running out of his inheritance money. So how does he have the money to travel to these places?
Yeah.
There's no commercial airlines.
Right.
So you're probably doing it by boat, by
carriage.
Yeah, I'm sure. And those things are really expeditions.
Right.
Like, it probably takes you 2 weeks to get to Spain. Mm-hmm. It's just wild to me, the amount of travel he does for being a poor dude. But I'm sure he's probably taking money from partners and,
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, and if he's doing teaching, so he's probably taking money from those people that he's teaching.
At this time, Rose is at home in Scotland in that house that he purchased, living with their daughter. And eventually this lover lives with them too. So Rose is fully aware that he has taken a lover. Yeah. Because he's there too when
they're all just one big happy family.
Crowley's home.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, that's probably why she's fucking drinking, dude.
Yeah.
Her husband brought home a man.
Right.
And she has a newborn baby, like postpartum. Like, I'm sure they didn't know what the hell that was back then. Mm-hmm. Like, this is awful. So then, in November of 1907, Crowley and George Cecil Jones decided to create an occult order to act as a successor to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. The result was called AA.
Alcoholic Anonymous.
It's like the letter A and then like a symbol and the letter A and a symbol.
Okay.
I'll point it out to you and show it to you. But it's like right there. It's not, I don't know.
Okay, yeah, it's like 3 little dots in between the A's.
Yeah, and the dots are kind of like in a triangle, like a pyramid.
Weird.
So I don't know.
How'd you even get that on print?
I know, right? Copy and paste, baby. In March 1909, Crowley began production of a biannual periodical entitled The Equinox.
Okay.
And he billed this periodical, which was to become the official organ of the AA, as the Review of Scientific Illusionism.
So it's like, periodical is like a paper, right? Okay.
Yeah. So like a newsletter. Yeah. Like a weekly newsletter.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. In November 1909, Crowley became increasingly frustrated with Rose's alcoholism and divorced her.
Oh.
But he divorced her on the grounds of his own adultery.
Oh.
Isn't that wild? I'm like, really?
I didn't even know that you could do that.
I know, me too. I was like, what? You can do that?
Let's get divorced because I've been unfaithful.
Yeah, and for being a narcissist, I find it like extremely hard to believe that he would admit.
Yeah.
But then I feel like for him, it was probably like an ego thing. Like, yeah, I've been cheating on you.
I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Because, I was going to say, I could see it like him trying to say that she had been unfaithful.
Right. No. It was based on his own
Deflect
adultery.
the blame off of himself. Wow.
I was like, wow. Well, and I'm sure people probably knew, like, well, there's this dude living with them now.
He probably couldn't hide it.
Yeah. I'm sure he was like out there waving his feather fucking boa, like he could really hide what was happening.
Yeah.
Lola was entrusted in Rose's care, and the couple remained friends, and Rose continued to live in that house in Scotland.
Okay.
And then in September of 1911, Rose's alcoholism worsened, and as a result, she was institutionalized. He made her at that time, you probably went to a psych hospital. It wasn't like you're going to a 12-step program. Yeah. And then Lola was taken in by her uncle, Gerald Kelly. So he didn't even like take care of his kid.
Yeah.
He was like, off you go.
That's awful.
Get rid of your mom. And she actually got better with her alcoholism and ended up marrying a doctor at the facility and went on to have a very happy life.
Yeah.
I could not find any information if ever she took Lola back or if Lola continued to stay with her uncle. I didn't find that much information on her, but I mean, according to the ancestry information, she lived until 1990.
Oh, wow.
That's, to me, that was like a couple
months ago. Long life. Yeah.
So from 1907 to 1990, she lived. So she had a really long life. Mm-hmm. I don't know if ever her mom got her back or, whatever. Maybe they just decided.
Maybe she was grown by the time she got out.
Yeah, I don't know. So then from 1914 to 1919, Crowley was living hand-to-mouth existence. He had no money. He was relying on donations from AA members with their dues payments.
Yeah.
Yes. He was traveling and jumping around the United States, living in New York City and New Orleans. Once again, how are you affording to do this?
Right.
So in 1919, after seeking out Aleister Crowley due to her interest in the occult, this lady named Lee Hersig was consecrated as his Babylon or Scarlet Woman, taking the name Aleister, meaning the womb or grail of God. So this
Aleister.
Yeah. So if I'm pronouncing that right, who knows? But so this lady heard about him and was like, I need to find this dude. I'm going to seek him out. I really think he's got these great ideas. And then she became one of his sacred women.
Right.
There's a whole thing about the women of Thelema.
Okay.
This religion. So anyway, in January of 1920, he had a daughter with Lee.
Okay.
They named her Anna Lee Crowley, and they called her Poopy. Which is a French word for doll. So it's super cute, right?
It was cute anyways.
Yeah, it was. Poopy. I know.
Poopy.
When I looked it up to the pronunciation, I'm like, oh, Poopy. That's so cute. But it is a French word for doll.
Okay.
And so she was born January of 1920 in France, and she died in October of 1920 in Italy. So she wasn't even a year. Yeah, she died in infancy. And then in 1920, they established the Abbey of Thelema commune in Sicily. Lee and him created this commune.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, so I just want to tell you the entire time Crowley has been practicing while he's traveling, he's finding people, they're doing drugs, he's practicing magic. So he's big in this occult world right now. Crowley traveled to visit rent boys and to buy supplies, including drugs.
What is a rent boy?
They are men that performed deeds for you. They were gay men.
Oh, they're prostitutes.
They were prostitutes that performed.
Rent boys.
Wow. Yeah, I know.
That's a new one.
I know. I wish I had a rent boy right now. But I think it exclusively means man-to-man prostitution.
Right.
So this is when the Abbey of Thelema is created from 1920 to 1923. In this time span. At this point, he has a heroin addiction.
Of course.
And it has dominated his life, and cocaine has began to erode his nasal cavity.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
You got to do a lot of cocaine for that to happen.
I'm telling you. This dude's, I don't know, either just crazy or he's living the best fucking life he can live, right?
A little bit of fucking both, it sounds like.
Many of the followers from the Abbey of Thelema, they disliked the same-sex magic that he was practicing and the heavy use of hashish. And something super, super gross and icky that I read is he was very open about having sex in front of anyone, even like when there was people's children around.
Oh, ew.
I know, super fucking gross. But in 1922, he published The Diary of a Drug Fiend.
Okay, that's a title.
Right. Which was his first actual published novel, because the rest of them were like pamphlets and newsletters and poems and whatever. And this also reportedly is the earliest known reference of the Abbey of Thelema. Because remember, like, everything that we really know is because it's shit he wrote about himself, right?
It's a secret society,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The novel is based on I'm going to put my quotations up here, fictional character.
Okay.
So this fictional character received a large inheritance, finds himself lacking direction, and gets into the occult, and he starts using drugs.
Oh, that sounds like somebody that we know.
Yeah. Fictional my ass.
Right. So he wrote a memoir.
But this is where tragedy strikes and people really have lost all respect for him at this point.
Okay. Drugs will do that to your life.
Right. Raoul Loveday and his wife, Betty May, they moved to the Abbey. Mm-hmm. And Loveday was devoted to Crowley while Betty hated Crowley. Mm-hmm. And she hated their life on the commune. Betty had said that Loveday was made to drink the blood of a sacrificed cat.
Oh.
Yeah, and that they were required to cut themselves with razors every time they used the pronoun I.
What?
Yeah, because it was we, us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was no cleaning being done, and while dogs and cats wandered throughout the buildings, which soon became unsanitary. Loveday drank from a local polluted stream, soon developing a liver infection resulting in his death in February of 1923.
Well, that's awful.
Yeah. Returning to London, May told her story to the press, and Crowley was proclaimed the wickedest man in the world and a man we'd like to hang.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So that turned on him real quick.
Real quick.
Yeah.
The death of this guy. Now, this is like his nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
They're like, dude, like,
we're done with your shit now.
Yeah.
Enough is enough.
Enough is enough. So Crowley deemed that all of these accusations against him were slanderous, but he was unable to afford the legal fees to sue them.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
That is crazy. And how did they come to be with him?
You know what? I don't know, but he was traveling the world,
right,
and he was just accumulating people in his travels,
right,
because he was practicing magic the whole time, and so
he obviously caught people's eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then he's like, "Hey, come back to Sicily with me. I got this great place. It's dirty as hell, and we do weird sex stuff, but come back with me."
Yeah, and you have to cut yourself with razor blades to be here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. I wonder if that's how he sold it.
Right?
You know? Everyone's like, "Oh, sure, we'll try it.
Yeah, let's give it a shot. Fuck it. You have nothing else going on a Sunday. Why not?"
Let's do it. This is where we go into his religion, and I'm just going to tell you some key points on it because the religion itself could be a whole nother episode.
Right.
Thelema is a spiritual philosophy of religious movement. Central to Thelema is the principle of do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, which emphasizes individual will and the pursuit of one's true purpose or true will.
Okay.
So and I looked to see how many followers there were, and there was such a range of information. I could tell you any given source was from 12 to 100.
Okay.
Like, there was not a good, strong answer.
Yeah.
But I personally, from the things that I read, think it's probably a lot lower.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't very liked.
Right.
And he was known for having gay sex. And that's like, oh my gosh, in the Protestant Europe, like, that's
big no-no.
You don't even want to be associated with a person like that, you know? From my understanding, his following is not very large.
Right.
And even if it was 100, that's not a very large...
It's not.
For a
not
religion.
in the grand scheme.
No. Some key concepts of Thelema is the belief that every individual has a unique purpose in life, and discovering and following this purpose is essential.
Okay.
The Book of the Law is the text considered the foundation scripture for Thelema. So when he was tripping out in Egypt and wrote that book, that's what they consider.
Okay.
Right? And then Thelema incorporates practices of ceremonial magic and ritual as means to achieve personal and spiritual development.
Okay.
Thelemites view the divine as immanent, which each person encouraging individuals to explore their own spiritual experiences rather than relying solely on traditional religious authority.
Okay.
And then Thelema promotes a personal ethical framework based on the pursuit of one's true will, leading to a life that is fulfilling and harmonious with the universe.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like a lot of different...
It sounds like a lot of cults.
Yeah.
That's how they get you in. Like, no, we just want you to be you. We want you to be you and enjoy the world and be kind to others and find your place in the universe, where you're like, oh, this sounds really great, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what I think. On November 20th, Astarte Lulu Louise Panthea Crowley was born.
Okay.
She was born in Italy. Her mother was Augustine Louise Helene Nanette Franks.
So many names.
I know. It's one genealogy. You got like the name of your grandma, both your grandmas, your sister, your cousin.
Man, I always used to make fun of my brother because he had 2 middle names.
Which you don't see that very often at all. But I think they kind of slowly started
dialing back a little bit over the years.
Well, I mean, after 6 of your kids have the name Nanette, I don't think anybody else in your family really needs to carry it on.
Yeah.
You know? But Astarte Lula, she went by Louise, his daughter.
Okay.
And she came to the United States in the 30s, and she lived in California until she passed away in 2014.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting because her mother, Nanette, was a young widow with a small son when she met Lee Herzig, the muse and companion of mystic Aleister Crowley. They became friends, and she recruited her into the
cult.
Yes. I was saying,
religion.
Yes. So she joined Aleister Crowley's commune, cult, harem, whatever, and he named her priestess, and then she started to go by Cypress. So he has these women.
Yeah.
So now another one of those women has his child.
Yeah.
Within a year of each other.
So are they polygamous?
I don't know. But any cult, that dude's dipping his dick in everything. Yes. Yeah. And the girls just have to shut up and
do it.
And do it because he's the leader, he's the wise one, they listen. So I'm sure that was going on. But I'm sure she was probably like, fuck, I brought this chick on and now she's having his kid. And she had just lost her baby. So I'm sure that's super painful to watch. From 1923 to 1938, he spent time in Paris, London, Berlin, and he was traveling to so many exotic locations and publishing his work still. In 1934, when he was 58 years old, he was introduced to a 19-year-old Patricia Daughtry.
Oh, no. Here
Super
we
fucking
go.
gross, right? In 1937, when he was 61 and she was 22, they had a son, Randall Gare Daughtry. He was nicknamed Aleister Ataturk, but went by many different names in his adult years. He lived in the UK, and he died in 2002. It's weird to me when I see these people's death dates, because I'm like, wow, I mean, to me, that's pretty recent.
Yeah.
recent enough where you can find information. Like,
Right.
I want to say he was some kind of ambassador in the UK or something. He went by a lot of different names too.
Yeah.
Which I think he may have been like a little like eccentric like his dad was, and that's
Okay.
why he did it.
Yeah.
But in 1944, Crowley wrote the Book of Thoth, and he released the Thoth Tarot card deck. It was painted by Lady Frida Harris. In the Egyptian religion, and I think that's why it was pronounced this way, because it was Egyptian.
Okay.
In the Egyptian religion is a god of the moon, of reckoning, of learning, and writing.
Okay.
There are two main decks, the Thoth Tarot card deck and the Rider-Waite Tarot deck.
The Rider-Waite is the one I'm familiar with.
Yes. And the Rider-Waite was developed by Arthur Edward Waite and illustrated by Pamela Coleman Smith. And this deck was published in 1909. So then Crowley, I feel like his narcissistic way, wanting something of his own, is why he created this.
Right.
And so his was published in 1940. It incorporates elements of astrology, Kabbalah, and alchemy, but it is known that the Rider-Waite tarot deck is more widely used.
Yeah, that one was published by the Rider Company.
Right.
So it wasn't like Crowley seems
Crowley
to just publish whatever he wants.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And I'm just going to hit a few points about like the tarot deck cards, like their differences and stuff, because I think that you and I already talked that we might go into like an episode of tarot. So I don't want to go, too much into that.
Yeah.
So the Thoth Tarot deck incorporated a variety of symbols from different traditions, making it more complex in interpretation, while the Rider-Waite is more intuitive and user-friendly for readers. It's, in that simple. There's like main structure of the Rider-Waite, like they have the High Priestess card, and he changed it to the Priestess.
Okay.
They have the Wheel of Fortune card, and he changed it to Fortune. The Temperance card, he changed to Art. So simple things like he did like that. And then there's the traditional court card names for Rider-Waite. There was King, Queen, Knight, and Page. And then he decided to change them to Knight, Queen, Prince, and Princess. Just
weird.
Yeah. Really. But the Rider-Waite tarot generally is preferred by beginners and casual readers as its clarity and straightforward imagery. It's the easiest to learn on, and people tend to use this more, but it's really, a preference.
Yeah.
I should have asked my girlfriend. I have a girlfriend that, has been reading cards for like 20 plus years, what deck she probably uses.
Yeah. I know when I was diving into tarot, a lot of sources suggested using the Rider-Waite deck to begin to understand, because I think there's like 100 different decks now. There's a bunch of different ones, but that one will give you just the base of knowledge that you need in order to branch off into using
because
some of
I
those
know
other
there's
ones.
like stuff with cups and
so there is
swords and
there's like a it's like the minor arcana, I think it's called. There's the major arcana, which is the Temperance, and it's the, I think, 21 cards. But then there's the House of Cups, House of Swords, House of Pentacles, and House of Wands.
Okay.
That's what it is. Those are the four minor ones in the Rider-Waite deck.
Yeah. We should do an episode on that.
For sure.
I should ask my friend. I think she would be really great to have to
for sure.
talk about it. Yeah. So that's what led me to Aleister. Was I didn't even know he created a deck of tarot cards.
Yeah, I didn't either. That's crazy.
Yeah. In 1947, on December 1st, Crowley died from chronic bronchitis and myocardial degeneration.
Bronchitis? Maybe smoking too much opium.
Girl, I think so. But get this. When he died, he took 100 micrograms of LSD. And his last words were, "I am perplexed. Satan, get out." Yes. So he took the hallucinogens so he could hallucinate his way out of life.
Yeah.
Which made me think he probably hallucinated his entire way through life.
Yeah. That is not outside the realm of possibility for me either.
Right, yeah. Crowley's life was full of contradictions and mysticism, which made him a figure of fascination and scandal in his time. His fame only increased after his death, like most people, like Bach, Beethoven, Edgar Allan Poe. Like, they didn't become popular until they died. His legacy continues to intrigue people, and I was trying to be like, do people still practice this religion? Are people still... And I found this super interesting, so I wanted to share this with you.
Okay.
In early 2010, there was an increase in interest in Thelema.
Okay.
I don't know if it was based on Google searches, cells of Thelema-related material, Aleister Crowley material, but it said in early 2010. And then it declined, and then again in late 2019, there was an increased interest in it. And I'm like, okay, I get the late 2019. We went into a pandemic, March 17th of 2020.
Yeah.
Well, other countries were already in it.
Yeah.
Europe. So they maybe, because we were in a pandemic, people were starting to seek out other faith, or, I mean...
That could be a
maybe
part of it.
end of the world thoughts, just researching religion and beliefs. But I really believe that there was a spike in early 2010 because of Supernatural.
That's possible.
Because the episode Abandon All Hope, which aired September 10th in 2009, was the first episode ever to feature Crowley.
Wow.
And I really think there's like a direct correlation.
Yeah, there
between
definitely could be.
Yeah.
It's a pretty popular show.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not very many people who don't know at least something about Supernatural.
Right. You got to know something about Sam and Dean for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. You know, I took the note and I didn't give it much thought. And I'm like, but wait, why did it increase? Because most of the things published were published like 25 years ago.
Right, yeah.
So why was there sudden increase? And I was like, I'm going to look up the original air date to see when Crowley was introduced to Supernatural. And I just think if he was introduced in September and then they're saying the following year.
That makes sense to me.
I think so too. I think it really, really makes sense too. I mean, my basic thoughts about him is he's just a narcissist.
Yeah.
He's just tripping all the time.
Tripping balls.
Tripping balls. Like, he viewed himself as, like, extraordinary. He expected praise and worship. He had little regard for other people's feelings.
Right.
He placed himself first in every, like, circumstance.
Yeah.
And
he threw tantrums to get his way.
He did not like being told no, right? So he was just this drug-fueled narcissist. And then when you know all that, it's like, how valid is anything that he wrote pen to paper?
Right.
They're just hallucinations of someone under the influence. So they can't really be seen as teachings.
I mean, they can, but I think that people who didn't know that he was on drugs.
Right. Well,
there's a difference because a lot of people take drugs like myself. I smoke pot and I become way more creative. You know what I'm saying?
I absolutely know what you're saying.
I think there's this level of, like, you have to at least be honest. If you are writing things that you are teaching to other people, you have to be honest about how you got to those thoughts, you know?
Right.
But, like, I have noticed in, like, a lot of these new spiritual paths and stuff, it's all of the teachings are similar in the sense that, like, this is what one person thought and then wrote about it and distributed it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand, like, back in the day, like, there was, like, opium parties, and these eclectic people, like artists, poets, musicians that all just, like, hung around.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they used to prescribe it for, like, PTSD and stuff.
Oh, I mean, I want to say, I think it was for, like, a pain medicine too. Like, if you were ever injured, that was what they had. But yes, a really interesting dude. I prefer
Definitely interesting.
Supernatural's version of this like hunky bad guy.
Mark Shepard definitely
yum.
put on a really good face for Crowley. For the world.
I guess. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode about Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, and if you have anything that you would like to add or maybe a different topic that you'd like us to cover, you can always send us an email at hexhavenpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time.
Bye. See you later. This episode of Hex Haven was recorded in the K-Town Connects podcast studio. Thanks for listening.